Good morning, this is Mike Houston with your Thursday morning hazard briefing for Southeast Idaho. Looking at satellite imagery this morning, we see an elongated trough here extending from the Pacific into California with several rotational features embedded in that trough. Looking further upstream, we see a deeper, stronger low-pressure system migrating through the northeast Pacific. Advancing to our forecast charts for this afternoon, one of those circulations in that elongated trough begins to work its way through southern California into southern Nevada, with associated precipitation and moisture spreading north into southern Idaho here by later this afternoon. You can see this particular model here is indicating about 1/10 of an inch of liquid precipitation across the southern highlands and a portion of the southern Snake River Plain, maybe impacting Pocatello to Burley with maybe 1/100th or so. Daytime highs this afternoon generally running in the 50s throughout the Snake River Plain and mid-40s to lower 50s here in the Central Mountains and Southeast Highlands, so certainly warm enough to support rain in the lower elevations. Skipping ahead now to Friday, we do see that low-pressure system now has moved up into the Montana border region and weakened. Still a broad trough across the Rockies here, and the precipitation amounts here are for a 24-hour period, so you see this particular model here, we'll call this model number 1, is indicating about a 1/2 inch of precipitation down here along the Utah border, a 1/4 of an inch into the Snake River Plain, and about 1/10 to maybe even a 1/4 of an inch of precipitation here in the Central Mountains from Arco to Peekaboo. If we skip to model number 2 over the same time frame for tonight through tomorrow, you can see much more impressive precipitation amounts, over 1 inch of precipitation here along the Utah border, and easily 3/4 of an inch up here into the Peekaboo and Arco region, where we've already seen some snowmelt issues ongoing. So if we see precipitation like this should make you sit up in your chair if you're a little worried about maybe some snowmelt flooding. Looking at the charts that show the melting, we are looking at the 24-hour period for snowmelt here for the day today, ending this evening around midnight. Using this particular chart because the one for tomorrow isn't really working correctly, but this one should show the areas in which we expect to see some potential issues with snowmelt. And if you throw some of that liquid precipitation that I just showed you on top of these orange areas here, we could see some snowmelt flooding in anywhere from Haley, Peekaboo, up through Arco, certainly from DuBois down through Rexburg, St. Anthony's. And then if you get down here into the Southeast Highlands, some of these lower elevation areas, you start throwing 1 inch to 3/4 of an inch of liquid precipitation on some of the snow in these areas, and we'll probably have some problems. We aren't particularly going to issue a product today because there is some uncertainty about, number one, the amount of precipitation that's going to fall and where it will fall. So I would say stay tuned. We'll probably see something either coming out on the day shift today or certainly when we come back in again tonight for another round. Daytime highs on Friday, a little cooler, generally running in the upper 40s to mid 50s here in the Snake River Plain and 40s in the Central Mountains and Southeast Highlands. The snowfall for tonight through Friday, certainly not expecting a whole lot down here in the Snake River Plain because it's going to be too warm. But if you get down here into the Southeast Highlands, certainly anything from 1 to 4 inches across the higher elevations down there and similar amounts into the Central Mountains. Advancing to Saturday, we see that trough now beginning to break up a little bit. We are getting some additional energy spreading in through Oregon and western Idaho, so that is still bringing us some additional precipitation in the Friday night to Saturday time frame. Here the model here is indicating a 1/4 of an inch, maybe some spotty areas of upwards of a 1/2 an inch. So our snowmelt flooding with rain on snow may be continuing to be an issue even into Saturday. Looking at the high temperatures for Saturday afternoon, generally running the upper 40s and 50s. and certainly 40s here in the Central Mountains and Southeast Highlands. So cool enough here in the Central Mountains at least to support some snow. And the anticipated snowfall for Friday night into Saturday, snow levels probably Friday night 5,500 feet, maybe as low as, and then once we get into Saturday afternoon, snow levels jumping right back up to about 7,000 feet. So really not expecting a whole lot of snow at all down here in the Snake River Plain. But you get up into the higher elevations of the Central Mountains, again, maybe 1 to 4 inches there, and similar readings here across the Eastern Highlands above 6,500 feet. Finally, we work our way out into Sunday, and you can see that low-pressure trough now beginning to lift north of us. We still have some straggling precipitation here along the Montana border and Wyoming border, but for the most part, we do see some drying conditions working into the region from the west. Little cooler going into Sunday behind that exiting system. So here we are looking at daytime highs, generally in the mid-40s here throughout the Snake River Plain, maybe getting down into the lower 50s here in the Eastern Magic Valley. Certainly the mid-30s to mid-40s here in the Central Mountains and Southeast Highlands, cold enough to support snow. And as we look, the snowfall total for Saturday night into Sunday, snow levels will be dropping down to valley floors into Sunday morning, and then maybe rising back up to about 5,500 feet in the afternoon. But we may see some measurable precipitation, generally less than an inch in the Snake River Plain Sunday morning. The bulk of the snowfall will be up into the mountains above 6,000 feet primarily. See broad area of 1 to 4 inches here, maybe even some spotty areas of reaching 6 inches here in the Central Mountains. And similar conditions here across the Eastern Highlands, generally 2 to 4 inches above 6,000 feet. As we work our way into Monday morning, we should see much cooler temperatures, and if we did have any snowmelt flooding, we probably see conditions beginning to wane here with that, as these colder temperatures would help to slow down any melting processes going on across the region. And as we work our way out into Monday, that next low-pressure system that we saw advancing through the eastern Pacific now working its way into the Oregon coastal regions. I am showing you one particular model here. It's the worst scenario of the two. It's got the low-pressure center a little closer to Oregon, and consequently the storm track lifting right up into central Idaho. Here you see the models indicating about a half inch or more of precipitation in that region over a 24-hour period. If we use the other model, it has the low centered a little further north and west, and we're actually dry across to southern Idaho until about Wednesday. So there's still some uncertainty going into early next week, but I think up front our biggest concerns at this point will be the potential for snowmelt flooding across the region here in southeast Idaho. Daytime highs on Monday generally running up into the mid-40s to mid-50s, so things warming up a little bit in that southwesterly flow, and then generally in the 40s here in the Central Mountains and Southeast Highlands. That's all I had here for you this morning. If you had any comments or questions or any additional concerns, please give us a call here at the number on the screen. Thank you.